other ways, my young friend. We call the technique the dozens.
The what?
The dozens.
Snaps. Look, man, if you want to trade insults with somebody, you gotta hit them where it hurts.
Watch the masters.
Yes! Look here, man. Your mama's hair is so short, when she rolls it, she uses rice.
Your daddy, he got a wooden leg with a wheel on it, and he run like this.
But your mama is so fat, last time she saw 90210, it was on the bathroom scale.
Action! Give me a ride, punk, or I will dust your ass at a biatch, and I think you got it. Give me a ride, punk, or I will dust your ass, biatch. Biatch! Biatch! Cricket! Turn around and do it again. Biatch!
All right, everybody, welcome in. Today, we're diving deep into something pretty close to home for me.
Yeah.
Humor in the Black community.
Ooh, yeah.
And we've got this article that goes way beyond just like, cracking jokes.
Right.
It really gets into the history, the resilience, and you have that fine line between what's funny and what just hurts.
Absolutely. It's more than just laughs, right? That's like woven into the fabric of our history. You know what I mean? Like talking about using humor as a shield and a weapon.
Yeah.
A way to survive and resist.
I feel that, We often hear about music and storytelling as forms of resistance during slavery.
Right.
But humor isn't usually the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah.
Can you give us some context there?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But picture this. You're living under the brutal system of slavery.
Right.
Stripped of your dignity and freedom.
Right.
Finding ways to laugh, to poke fun at your oppressors.
Oh, yeah.
Even in secret.
Yeah.
It was a way to hold on to your humanity.
Right.
There's this book, Jordan Roll, The World the Slaves Made. Okay.
That talks about how enslaved Africans used coded songs and stories to mock slave owners, often right under their noses.
Wow.
These weren't just jokes, they were acts of defiance.
That's incredible. It makes you realize how deeply ingrained humor is in our culture,
Yeah.
Makes me think about the dozens. That back and forth of playful insults. Is that connected to this history of resistance?
100%.
Wow.
The dozens is a direct descendant of that spirit.
Yeah.
It's about quick wit, clever wordplay, and bonding over shared experiences.
Yeah.
But it also has roots in West Africa,
Okay.
where verbal dexterity and improvisation were highly valued.
Right.
It came over on the slave ships and evolved as a way to sharpen your mind and your tongue, to find strength and solidarity in a community that was constantly under attack.
Okay, so we're seeing how humor served as this powerful tool for survival and connection.
Absolutely.
And there's this powerful story about Ruby Bridges
Yes.
that really brings it home.
For our listener who may not know, she was the first Black child to integrate an all-white school in New Orleans back in 1960.
Can you imagine the courage of this little girl, only 6 years old,
Yeah.
facing down a mob of angry adults, screaming hate at her, threatening her, all because of the color of her skin?
It's tough.
She had to be resilient beyond her years.
Absolutely.
It's heartbreaking.
No.
But it also makes you think about the role of humor in facing down such adversity.
Right.
Did she ever talk about using humor to cope?
There's not much about that specifically.
Yeah.
But think about it.
Yeah.
Humor and resilience go hand in hand.
Yeah.
They're defense mechanisms, ways to process trauma and navigate a world that's often hostile.
Absolutely.
Ruby Bridges had to find ways to stay strong in the face of unimaginable cruelty.
Right.
Maybe it was a little joke, she told herself. A way to find a sliver of light in all that darkness.
Yeah.
Her story just shows how deep those connections run in our community.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a reminder that laughter can be this incredible force, even in the toughest situations.
Sure.
Now, the article makes a point of comparing jokes about height and weight.
Okay.
That seems like an odd pairing at first glance.
Yeah.
What's the significance of that comparison?
That's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
It's about exposing those unspoken social rules, the double standards of what's considered okay to joke about.
Okay.
You see, both types of humor can be hurtful,
Right.
but society tends to judge them very differently.
So what's the difference?
Right.
I mean, we crack jokes about both all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
The difference lies in the perception of control. Height. You're born with it.
Right.
It's a fixed trait.
Right.
Weight.
Yeah.
Society often sees that as something you can control, even though it's way more complicated than that.
Wait, so are they saying it's okay to make fun of someone's height then?
Not at all.
Okay.
In fact, there's a ton of research showing that short individuals, particularly men, face a surprising amount of discrimination.
Really?
They're often overlooked for leadership roles,
Wow.
earn less money on average,
Really?
and are often seen as less authoritative. It's a real thing.
You know, I never thought about it like that before.
Yeah.
Have you ever considered that, listener?
Right.
We joke about height all the time,
Yeah.
but it's actually connected to some serious biases.
Exactly.
Wow.
And yet, height jokes often slide under the radar.
Interesting.
It's almost like this blind spot
Yeah.
in our social awareness.
Right.
Meanwhile, weight-related humor is getting more pushback,
Okay.
particularly with the rise of body positivity movements.
Sure.
It's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. It highlights the need to be sensitive about all characteristics, especially those people can't change.
Exactly.
But I feel like there's still this double standard, right?
100%. And that's the whole point the article is trying to make. The way we treat these two types of humor reveals a need to be more mindful, more aware of the potential impact of our words, regardless of the target.
Yeah. Okay, so we've covered the historical roots, the resilience factor, these hidden social biases. Now I want to shift gears a bit and talk about how this all plays out in like contemporary forms of Black humor.
Okay.
The article specifically mentions hip hop and battle rap.
Yeah.
How do these art forms connect to this legacy we've been discussing?
You know, hip hop, especially in its raw forms like freestyle ciphers and battle rap, carries that torch of Black humor in a way that's both familiar and evolved. You know, it's all about rhythm, wordplay, and using humor to deliver sharp social commentary.
But battle rap is all about trading insults, right? That seems like it could easily cross the line.
It can, no doubt.
Yeah.
But remember, at its core, it's an extension of the dozens.
Yeah.
It's a verbal duel where wit and creativity are the weapons of choice.
Right.
Now, what makes battle rap different and potentially more problematic is the scale.
Okay.
We're not just talking about a back and forth on a street corner anymore.
Right.
These battles have huge audiences, both online and in person.
Right.
So the stakes are higher.
Yeah.
The potential for both entertainment and harm is magnified.
So it's like walking this tightrope between tradition,
Right.
entertainment,
Yeah.
and the potential for real hurt. How do we navigate that?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And it's a conversation we need to be having because there's this tragic story about a young girl named Kalaya Turner
Right.
that really brings this home.
This case is so heartbreaking. Can you tell us about it?
You're talking about Kalaya Turner, 12 years old, attempted suicide after being relentlessly bullied about her appearance. It's a stark reminder that words have power. Humor can be a weapon, especially against young people, you know, who are still figuring themselves out.
It's another morning for this mother of three. Except there's no getting ready for carpool or packing a lunchbox.
Unfortunately, words do hurt. They used to teach us sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never harm me. Words are the one thing that we will carry.
Ty Turner, filled with emotion, speaking publicly for the first time about when her daughter was 11 years old, a student at Fisher Middle School. In the 24-page lawsuit her family filed this summer, it details multiple occasions where her daughter, Kalaya, says another student physically assaulted her and called her a roach and a man.
There was no less than 7 to 9 times that I myself personally reached out to the school, and I had the emails, and half the time they didn't respond back, and if they did, it wasn't with anything of any sustenance. There was never any resolution.
Then, on March 17th, 2023, Turner says that became a day she will never forget. She found her then 12-year-old daughter hanging from a belt in her bedroom at home.
It was 11:18 p.m. when I found Kalaya hanging. They couldn't find a pulse, and they couldn't find her heartbeat. There were grown men in that room crying.
She was in a coma for weeks, ultimately staying in the hospital for 101 days. And now, Kalaya requires a trach, feeding tube, and she's nonverbal. She can't lift her arms, legs, or torso and is completely dependent on her parents to function.
That story breaks my heart, man. And it makes you realize we got to teach these kids, teach them the difference between, playful teasing and just being cruel.
Absolutely. We got to give them the tools to understand humor, the impact it has, the importance of empathy. And it starts at home, in our communities, with honest conversations. You know, before we paused, we were talking about the consequences, the real hurt that can come from from bullying disguised as humor. And Kalaya's story, that really brings it home. You know, it shows we got to understand where that line is.
It sure does, man. Words can wound, especially when they're about how someone looks, something so personal. So how do we as a community start to shift the culture, you know, especially for young people?
It starts by remembering humor. It's learned. Kids don't just automatically know the difference between, you know, ribbing and teasing that's harmful. We got to teach them, just like we teach them anything else about how to be in the world.
You're right. It's giving them the tools to get the complexities right. But how do we explain something as abstract as appropriate humor, you know, to a child?
Well, think about it. Humor, it relies on what we all understand, like unspoken rules. And for a young person, that's a lot to figure out. What we can do is start with open, honest conversations. Encourage them to talk about how humor makes them feel, you know, what makes them laugh, what makes them uncomfortable, and why.
So it's make it a space where they feel okay saying how humor hits them, even if it's different from what their friends are saying.
Exactly. And from there, we can bring in empathy, you know, help them see that their words have an impact. Ask them, like, how would you feel if someone said that to you? Or do you think everyone would find that funny?
I like that. It's helping them see it from somebody else's point of view, considering those feelings.
It is. And you can use real life to make the point. Talk about times when humor's been used to hurt people, you know, or to leave them out. You can even bring up stuff from their own lives when a joke went too far or someone got their feelings hurt.
Those real examples, they can make a difference, especially for kids who learn best through stories. And I think it's important to say, kids and adults too, they don't always say when they're uncomfortable, right? Some folks just laugh along, even when they're hurting inside.
You're absolutely right. Not everyone's going to speak up. Some people, especially if they already feel like they don't belong, might not say anything. They're afraid to cause trouble or be called sensitive. We got to make a culture where they feel safe sharing their concerns.
So it's about building trust and teaching kids to watch for those unspoken cues. It's saying, hey, it's okay to speak up if something feels wrong, even if everyone's laughing.
Exactly. And when someone does speak up, listen. Don't brush off their feelings or try to justify the joke. Validate them. Acknowledge that humor. It's subjective, right? What's hilarious to one person could be offensive to another.
Respect and boundaries, you know? Understand it. Everyone's got a different sense of humor. And as adults, we got to show them how that's done. Kids are always watching, even when we don't think they are.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I keep coming back to this idea of responsibility.
Yeah.
We've talked about the history of humor in the Black community, its power, its complexity.
Right.
But where does responsibility fit into all this?
Responsibility is the thread that runs through it all.
Okay.
We have a responsibility to acknowledge and honor the legacy of Black humor, to understand its roots in resilience and resistance.
Yeah.
But we also have a responsibility to use humor wisely.
Okay.
To make sure it uplifts and unites, not divides and wounds.
I love that. Using humor wisely.
Yeah.
Because at its best, humor can be this incredible tool for connection,
Right.
for healing, for sparking important conversations.
Absolutely.
But like any powerful tool, it needs to be handled with care.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that fine line between lighthearted banter and cutting someone down.
Right.
And it's about understanding that some folks might be hurting in silence.
Right. Holding back the shade because they don't want to cause a scene or rock the boat.
Yeah.
It's a cycle we got to break.
It's a reminder to check ourselves, to think before we speak, and to be mindful of the impact our words can have, even when we're trying to be funny.
Man, this deep dive has really been eye-opening.
Yeah.
It's made me think about how I use humor, how I perceive others, and how important it is to be mindful of the impact my words can have. I hope it's had the same effect on you, listener.
It's funny you say that because as we're talking, I'm realizing, like, I relate to that.
Right.
You know, there have been times when a joke has stung and I just swallowed it down, you know? Didn't want to be the angry Black person or kill the mood.
Right.
But you're right. Sometimes we got to speak up.
Yeah.
Even if it's uncomfortable.
Absolutely. And that's real talk. You
Yeah.
know, it's about recognizing that our silence can perpetuate the hurt.
Right.
Not everybody's going to be confrontational.
Right.
Some folks, they hold it in.
Yeah.
And that pain, it festers, you know? It's a cycle we gotta break.
I think that's a powerful message for all of us, no matter our background.
Yeah.
This whole deep dive has been about more than just jokes. You know, it's about empathy, awareness, and understanding the impact of our words.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that humor, especially when it comes to sensitive topics, is like walking a tightrope. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got to be aware of the weight you're carrying, the potential to hurt or to heal.
Yeah, so as we wrap this up, I want to circle back to something you said earlier about, you know, Black humor being this incredible force.
Yeah.
It's born from struggle, fueled by creativity, and has the power to connect us, but we got to use it responsibly.
Facts.
Yeah.
And responsibility means knowing when to step back. When a joke crosses the line from funny to harmful,
Right.
It means checking our intentions, being mindful of the context, and most importantly, listening when someone tells us we've missed the mark.
This has been an amazing conversation. It's challenged me to think differently about humor, to be more conscious of my own words, and to create space for others to speak their truth.
Right.
I hope our listeners feeling that too.
Me too. And remember, folks, laughter is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
You know, it can bring us joy, comfort, and release.
Right.
Let's make sure we're using it to build each other up, not tear each other down.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
So on that note,
Yeah.
we'll leave you with this. The next time you're about to crack a joke,
Take a beat.
ask yourself, is this punchline punching down?
Hmm.
You know, could it be hurtful, even if unintentionally?
Right.
Let's make sure our humor is a source of unity, not division.
Well said.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.